So I've got my Sony a5000 here, and I'm using a lens that's not a Sony lens. It's a newer lens, or a newer lens. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. It is a 25mm lens. It's a f1.8 aperture lens with a manual aperture ring and manual focusing. So there's no autofocus on this. So how does it combine with the Sony a5000 to get pin sharp photographs? Well, we're going to be looking at something called Focus Magnifier and another setting that goes in a pair with it called the Focus Magnifier Time. Okay, so we're going to look at those two things in this video. Okay, so the sharpness of your image is very important for obvious reasons. You want images to be nice and sharp and the subjects in focus. And here I've got a little scene with Captain Scarlet and Captain Blue. And we're going to adjust the focus between Captain Scarlet and Captain Blue just to illustrate what Focus Magnifier and Focus Magnifier Time actually do. So let's have a look at where they are in the menu system. So I'm just going to go into the menu, and the way that the menu works on the a5000 and other Sony cameras is that you have a command wheel and north, south, east and west positions on that wheel, and I'm just going to hit the north position, and that's going to take me along the tabs at the top. And once I'm in the right tab, I can move down with the south button and just scroll through the settings, going up and down. If I go left and right, you'll see there are some pages on there, so I can go to, I'm currently on page 1, I can go to page 2 and so on. So let's have a look where these settings actually are. So we've got Focus Magnifier on the 4th page, and it's right down the bottom there on the 4th page. This goes hand in hand with another setting called Focus Magnifier Time. So let's have a look at Focus Magnifier first of all. What this does is it produces a little box on the screen that you can move around, and let's just move it up to the face of Captain Scarlet and hit the center button, and there you can see a magnified version of Captain Scarlet's face. And if I try and adjust the focus ring on the lens, you can see that I can position it just right so that it's bang, the focus is bang on. So as you can see, the magnified image is staying on the screen. I'm not touching it, and it's still staying on the screen. So that gives an illustration of what Focus Magnifier Time actually is. So Focus Magnifier Time is, if I move to the next tab along the top and go down, whoops, and go down, you can see Focus Magnifier Time. And the setting there is no limit. And I don't think that's the default setting. I think it's 2 seconds by default. So we've seen what no limit actually looks like. Let's change that to 2 seconds as the default. So this is what would happen if you don't change this setting. I'm just going to go back here. So this is my scene. I want to make sure that Captain Blue is now my focus. So I could try and guess that he's in focus by using the focus ring, but I wouldn't be sure he's in focus. I hit menu, and let's go back to the first tab, and I think it was page 4, and down to the bottom of page 4 for the focus magnifier. And this time I'm going to move it on to Captain Blue. Press the center button, and there you can see that my guess wasn't quite correct. But what's happened? Oh dear, I've lost my focus magnifier because it's set to 2 seconds. It's now disappeared. So I think it's always better to have it set to off, really, no limit. So let's move back to the second of these tabs, and then down to Focus Magnifier Time, and put that on no limit. So now when I move back to Focus Magnifier on page 4, let's try again, and here we go. So it stays on the screen now, and I can adjust the focus to make sure that Captain Blue is as I want in focus. And if I hit the center button again, it zooms in again, and you can see at the top here now I'm zoomed into 13.6. So it's here it says 1. If I hit it once, it's 6.8. If I hit it twice, it's double. So another way of making sure that you're actually getting the focus correct. Now when I take the shot, actually I'm on a tripod here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my drive mode so that I'm on a 2-second timer, and just making sure of that. You can set it to 10 seconds, but I'm going to set it to 2 seconds. And this is rather than the default, which is single shot. Instead of that, which would require my hand on the camera, I'm going to use the 2-second timer. And just to make sure that I don't introduce any camera shake. And there's my picture of Captain Blue. And let's try adjusting that for Captain Scarlet. So I've got a picture of them both. It looks like it might be in focus there. If I go to Focus Magnifier, move it over to Captain Scarlet, I can even zoom in a little bit further, making sure that, yeah, that's a bit better, isn't it? And I'm going to take the shot again. So it zooms out when you take the shot, and it allows you to zoom in before you take the shot. So that's Focus Magnifier and Focus Magnifier Time. Don't be confused by another setting. Let's just go back. We're on the first tab there. On the second of the tabs you'll see this MF Assist. That's for if you've got a Sony lens or an autofocus lens, and it's not for manual lenses, so completely manual lenses where there's no communication between the aperture and the focus on the lens and the camera. So if you've got a Sony lens, I'll discuss how that works now. Okay, so now we're going to look at a setting called MF Assist. So this is still with a manual focus lens, and it's completely manual. There's no communication between the lens and the camera in terms of the aperture or the focus. I'm going to go into the menu and look at MF Assist. It's currently in the setting on, so I'm going to change it to off. And I'm also going to, I'm not going to use the focus magnifier. So let's have a look at my image, and I want to have Captain Blue in focus. So what assistance do I get to see if Captain Blue is in focus or not? Just my eyes, I think, on the back, on the rear screen. So so without focus magnifier and manual assist in the off position, there isn't any help I'm going to get with focus. Now, because this is a manual focus lens, if I turn this on, it's not going to have any effect. So let's do exactly the same, and this time focus on Captain Scarlet. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to adjust the focus ring on the camera, try and bring Captain Scarlet into focus, and again no assistance really, no magnified view of Captain Scarlet, so I'm just guessing it in focus, and I'm going to take the shot. So now I've got a Sony lens on the camera. This is the kit lens, the 16-50 kit lens, and we'll have a look at how this focuses. Okay, so I'm going to go into the menu, and because this is a Sony lens, it has autofocus. I'm going to turn that off though. So I'm just going to go to focus mode on the third page of the first tab, and I'm going to go down to manual focus. So moving that into manual focus, and then if I have a look at the the fourth page I can see Focus Magnifier here, and this operates in the same way that it did with our manual focus lens. So I'm just moving Captain Scarlet into focus there. You can take the shot. So you might be wondering what this MF Assist is. So if I just move right to the second tab there, MF Assist is currently off. And you'll notice that I had to go manually into Focus Magnifier. So if I go to this setting and turn it on, and then back to my scene, I want Captain Blue to be in focus. So let me turn the focus wheel, and now you can see it's immediately jumped to a magnified focus view. What I actually want to do is move to Captain Blue, make sure that he's in focus, and then take the shot. So with MF Assist and a Sony lens, or a lens with autofocus, with MF Assist on, I automatically get that focus magnifier setting. So so that's the difference between MF Assist and Focus Magnifier. So as well as the magnifier, there is a related setting called peaking. And what this does is it helps you with your focus. It's another focusing aid without actually magnifying the screen. So to illustrate this, I'm going to go into the menu, and I'm going to find peaking. So I think it's on the second tab. So if I go into the second tab, down to the second page, and then we see peaking level and peaking color. At the moment you can see that peaking level is off, so let's adjust that. Let's put it on and let's set it to high. And you can also see that the peaking color is yellow. So let's have a look at what my scene looks like now. And you can see a little bit of yellow dots around the sort of contours of Captain Blue. There's none of that around Captain Scarlet. So let's try and make Captain Scarlet the subject of focus. And I've got my MF Assist still on, so now I'm going to move the focus so that Captain Scarlet is in focus. When I come zoom back out, now you can see that the yellow fringing or yellow dots around the sort of contours of Captain Scarlet are around Captain Scarlet rather than Captain Blue, indicating that that's where the focus is. So without zooming in, let's see what it looks like. So I'm going to turn the setting off for MF Assist. Because I think it's slightly easier to see without that on. So I'm going to change it from Captain Scarlet to Captain Blue now. So you can see that the colour, the yellow sort of dots are around Captain Blue rather than Captain Scarlet. That's another way that you can get some assistance in terms of focusing with these cameras. And you can also change the colour. So for example, if you were to take a photograph of something yellow, perhaps the yellow focus peaking, the yellow colour there wouldn't be very visible for you. So you can change that colour depending on your subject. So let's change it to red, which should show up quite well with Captain Blue, but less effectively with Captain Red. Captain Scarlet rather, Captain Red. So I'm going to change it to Captain Scarlet, and it's less noticeable on Captain Scarlet now. It's there, but it's less noticeable because the colour is the same. So if I were to go in there and change that to white, let's see. So yeah, so it's on Captain Scarlet. Perhaps yellow in this case would be more visible. So if I change that to yellow, yeah, it's a bit easier. So it depends on the subject that you're taking a photograph of. You can change the color of the peaking dots assistance. So yeah, there you go. That's also works with manual lenses, so it's not just these Sony lenses that works with. So you might be wondering what the difference is between a high, medium and low in terms of peaking is, and that's really just the amount of colour that you can see around the subject. So if I set it to low, for example, you don't see very much of the yellow. If I now change that to high, you then see it's a bit more noticeable. So my preference would be always to use high.